ever been in a situation where you're able to help someone because they've been through something similar yourself?
Yeah, often.
No.
No.
Not that I can remember.
No. I can't say I have.
I can't wait, no.
My friend was flying in from South Africa and he didn't know of anywhere to stay, and so he called me and I hooked him up. He stayed at my house, and then like other times I've been stuck out in like different countries and stuff, and I'd be calling people and they'd help me out in the same way.
When I see friends that do drugs and stuff, I actually warn them. Like my one friend really went through a bad time, and I actually helped her through it when she went through it.
Yeah, a couple times I do, like through friend situations and like drugs and all that kind of stuff.
It's pretty much like certain things with my friends, like different like things with suicide and stuff like that. A lot of my friends in school.
Well, I think when people have issues with their parents or have issues with friends, I mean, I'm always there for them, and I know that I've had the same issues as them, so it's just easy to talk to them about it.
There's an old saying, experience is the best teacher.
This means that you've learned a lot by dealing with the situations of your life.
The experience can be really valuable to someone else going through a similar struggle.
Have you ever been able to help someone because you had been through something similar yourself?
Have you ever gotten good advice from someone who has had a similar experience?
Has a painful experience empowered you to help others? Ministering out of brokenness. That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi everyone, I'm Catherine.
And I'm Jack.
And this is Realfaith TV. Our spotlight guest today is Emily. She will tell us how sharing her own feelings of abandonment and loneliness has helped others dealing with these same feelings.
We'll also talk with our studio guests about this.
But first, let's go back to the teens on the street and find out why they think people who are hurting or have been through a difficult time can help others to heal.
Do you think people that are hurting or have been through a difficult time can help others to heal?
No.
I think they can through their experiences and just telling what they know.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Why do you think this?
because they might be going through the same thing, so.
They've had the experience and they know how to help them.
Oh, definitely, because you can like relate to them, and it's really easy, and it's good to talk about it. I think it enables you to, I mean, if you really don't understand what they're going through and haven't gone through it, you can't really help and can't give them advice. If you've gone through it yourself, you can tell them what you did and help them out.
They already went through it, so they know exactly what's going to happen and exactly what's going on.
I think it's better for me because then I can, if I did it first, then I can like take care of them and show them like the way I did it, if it was bad or good.
You can relate to them very well, and you know what they're going through, and you know what helped you. So you can give them the same help that other people gave you when you went through those situations.
Yeah, experience plays a big role in everything. Like if you know someone you've been through, then it definitely helps.
I definitely agree that the best way to help someone is tell them about an experience that you went through. But let's find out what our studio guests think about this.
Let's meet them. They are Ian, Jessica, Elias, Allegra, Lauren, and Jessica.
How do you feel about this? Do you believe that you can help someone with a struggle if you have suffered through the same struggle?
I think it's easier to be able to help them because you're able to relate to them. For instance, when my grandfather died, a short while after, a couple of months, my friend was talking to me because his grandmother died, and he was asking me like how I dealt with it, and it was easier to talk to him because I knew what it was like to lose a grandparent, so I was able to relate to him better.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Ian had to say. Some of the most comforting words can be, I know how you feel, or, oh yes, the same thing happened to me, because you know that it's relatable.
Yeah, because sometimes you'll feel like you're the only one going through something, but it's good to know that someone else went through it and they got through everything, and they understand what you're feeling and everything.
I agree. I think people have more trust in them if they've been through the exact same experiences and they can relate.
Yeah, I think sometimes though you just have to stand back and watch your friend struggle through her situation, because sometimes people don't really take advice very well, and they just want a person to know that they're listening. They just want an ear. They don't want to be pressured by so much advice.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Not all the time, but most of the time advice can seem kind of preachy or kind of like trying to show off like I'm an expert at this, but it's not meant to be that way, but it comes out that way. So sometimes, even if you haven't been through it, you can just lend a listening ear, you know what I mean?
And it's also probably a time that you just don't want to hear it. You just want to be able to grieve and be able to know that people are there to support you.
Because I know when I was having a hard time, it really meant so much just to have, because I went to a therapist for a while, and just to be able to talk in that room with her, things would just come out of my mouth. My feelings would just come out, and I wasn't even aware of them. But just talking to someone like that, if you can be a listening ear for someone, it can really do incredible amounts of things for the person who's suffering.
Yeah, just get it all out. You don't necessarily need them to talk back, you know, just know that someone's there.
Yeah.
I think you should always have at least one person who's able to listen to you, whether it's a family member or a friend, and just having that person just makes all the difference, like you said.
We are all scarred by our experiences of hurt, humiliation, failure, and loss.
Throughout our lives, these traumas take their toll on us physically, emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically.
Each hurt wounds us in some way.
We become less trusting and more cynical.
Each failure strips away a little self-confidence.
And every loss makes us that much more unwilling to risk love again.
Most of us hide these wounds to avoid admitting how broken we are.
But our spotlight guest, Emily, didn't hide her wounds when she shared them to help others.
Next, she tells us how sharing this with others has been meaningful for her and has helped her grow closer to God.
If you've suffered through a significant pain, you want to help other people because you realize you can get through it and overcome it. I find it very helpful because it enables you to feel what the other person is going through. Although it's never going to be exactly the same, it definitely helps to have some experience because you've been there and you know more of what to say and how to help them and what kind of things will help them get through. Yeah, so I found myself in that situation a number of times, probably throughout high school and helping out with a youth group, just talking to different people who had been through hardships and with family struggles, just being able to relate and talk to them and share my life with them. I found it very fulfilling. If I see someone in need, definitely have the desire to help them, but sometimes, you know, if you don't feel like your own life is in order, you're kind of at the same point if you are in need of help. I find it's important to get your own life in order and in order to help other people. Make sure your life is right with God and you're right with yourself and your family in order, and then you can help other people better. One time a couple of my friends were going through a really tough time in their family. One of my best friends, her dad died, and I was able to really help comfort her and her family because I'd been through a similar family hardship, and just being able to bring God's love to her and her family was an awesome thing in my life and helped me to go closer to God myself.
So have you guys ever been able to help someone who's going through a difficult time and you had been through a similar experience before?
I know I helped a friend a few years ago. She was suffering something, dealing with her self-esteem. You know, she was uncomfortable with how she looked. And this resulted in her doing like damaging things to herself, like self-mutilation, such as cutting. And I went over to her because, you know, I knew she had been doing it. And I was in a similar situation earlier that year. However, I resulted to a different outlet that was similarly destructive, but it was still something she could, you know, kind of relate to. So I was able to help her get through a really tough time in her life and take her to a guidance counselor, so.
Well, I know me, like I've been through some pretty tough relationships in my life, so when someone else goes through something like that, I'm able to, you know, talk to them and help them and stuff. Like, I've had phone conversations that last for like hours and everything, you know, and it's just kind of, it helps the person, you know, it's not really them giving them advice, I'm letting them kind of talk at me, and they know, like, I've been through the same thing, I understand where they're coming from and everything, so it helps.
Yeah, I actually knew this person. Oh, I still know her, but in the beginning of the year, or a little bit ago, she was cutting herself, like similar to Jessica's story. And when I found out, I was always constantly pressuring her to go and tell someone or get help or just do something that would make her stop doing it. And it was either she does it herself or I was going to do it. And eventually she braved up and did it herself. But I think that because I was able to pressure her into do it, she wouldn't have done it otherwise.
Yeah, I know. I've had a friend who I've known for a really long time come to me when her parents were having trouble and they were almost going to separate because she knew I had experience in that kind of family issue. And I know she came to me because she knew I could give her honest answers to the questions she had about what it feels like to have that happen to your family. And basically, coming to a person who's been through a similar situation can really be extremely reassuring because you know that they're giving you advice that you can really relate to because they've already come through it.
When my grandmother died last year, it was very lonesome and depressing because I really didn't have anyone to talk to. So now I try to go out of my way and help my friends who've been through a loss because I know how lonesome it could be.
Yeah, I know. A few years ago, my friend's dad died, and last year my aunt died. So he was kind of, I asked him, I kind of had one of those phases, God's not fair or whatever, and he kind of just talked to me and he's like, listen, it just happens. You're gonna die someday too. And he kind of just talked me through it, and it was really just, like you said before, reassuring that someone understood what I was going through and I wasn't the only one in the world.
I've had an experience where friends have helped me out. When my mom had cancer, I had a lot of friends who have been through the same exact thing as me. So I know I could get some of the same answers from them and stuff.
Yeah, sometimes it can be really hard to admit that we have emotions and feelings because that could kind of be a sign of weakness, or at least we could think it would be.
Yeah. Spiritual writer Henry Nouwen contends that the main question is not how can we hide our wounds, that we don't have to be embarrassed.
But how can we put our woundedness in the service of others?
When our wounds cease to be a source of shame and become a source of healing.
We have become wounded healers.
Emily is for sure a wounded healer. She struggles with loneliness and feelings of abandonment by her father, who suffers from an illness.
But she is still able to help others by sharing how God has helped her and continues to help her through this.
We pick up her story now when she came to the realization that she was broken and needed help.
I felt so alone. The world seemed so big and I was so small. And I felt like no one cared. No one loved me. And I just realized how broken I was and had been ignoring it, how broken my family was. And it all just tumbled down on there. And I just remember running down to my bed, throwing my face in my pillow and just sobbing for all the pain that I'd bottled up inside. And I ended up having to go to counseling for all of that, just for all these feelings of grief and anger and guilt. But God helped me through it. And I brought that experience to help others. And a lot of the kids in the youth group could relate to those feelings and being left by people who love them. And a lot of them would come up to me and share with me their life stories and what they were struggling through. And through the help of God, I was able to just listen to them and talk to them and share with them how God helped me get through hard times.
It really sounds like what she went through was really difficult, but at the same time, at the end, it really brought a lot of help to other people that she knew, like the kids in her youth group. It's really great how her story was able to help them.
Yeah, and I think she was right, that you should have a handle on your own situation and be right with God before you attempt to help others. What do you guys think about this? Do you think others go through difficult times if you don't have yourself totally together,
I think it'd be harder to help someone if you don't have yourself together because you're starting to worry about their problems and also trying to get your life together at the same time, and it's too hard.
And like I said before, and like Emily said in the tape, you need to pray to God, and it's kind of ironic how you get mad at God, but God's really the only one that fully understands you 100%.
And can see you through the problem.
Yeah.
Well, I think that you can still help someone even if you're not fully done with your problem, because I know what you said, but I have to disagree. I think that even though you could be going through a really hard time, you've still come through a period of something else during that time of struggle. And if a person comes to you needing advice, not so much advice, but just needing an ear to talk to, then I think you can still be facilitative and helpful if you are still struggling yourself.
Right, I agree with Catherine. Like Emily said, she mentioned her youth group, and I know in my youth group we're really close, and we know that we can always come to the meeting on Sunday nights and talk, and like none of us are always like fully healed, but we can still help each other.
Yeah, I think it doesn't have to be exactly like the same situation, but I mean, if you've been through hard times, then you understand like what a hard time is like, you know, and you can be compassionate and everything. It doesn't have to be like the exact same situation to help other people.
And if you are going through the same situation, then you know exactly how each other's feeling, and you can really help each other,
better.
and you'll really work through it.
Yeah.
Right, and none of us are ever really going to totally heal from the things that happen.
Yeah.
Emily's relationship with her dad has gotten better.
She continues to be strengthened by prayer and her relationship with God.
Next, she tells us how prayer has helped her, and how as she began to experience healing, she was able to help her family as well.
Prayer definitely helps me in my brokenness. When I go to God, I find a lot of peace and comfort. I don't think I could have gotten through any time of brokenness without prayer, without talking to God. So sometimes I would just drive to the church and pray when I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone else, couldn't rely on anyone else to always be there for me. I would just run to God, just fall on my knees and pray to my Father in heaven when I felt like my Father on earth was betraying me or hurting me. Little by little, God put my broken heart back together, it seemed, and I was able to take a lot of the anger and the hurt and the abandonment and frustration and turn that into a more positive emotion of love and forgiveness. I was able to help my family through hard times instead of just making it worse by taking out all my emotions in the wrong ways. And I could just make the best of my situation, accept that it was hard, but accept that it would lead me to my Father in heaven.
I love when she described how God mended her broken heart.
Yeah, he's good at things like that. You know, Jesus was like the ultimate role model of a wounded healer. You know, he was crucified on the cross and he healed the entire human race. He forgave us for our sins and everything, allowed us to get into heaven. I mean, I don't know how much better of a wounded healer you can get.
Yeah. And it's always really good to know that even when no one's around, he's always there, God, to talk to you or for you to talk to him about your problems and whatever rough things you're going through at that time.
A recent one would probably be Lance Armstrong. You know, he went through cancer, you know, and he's like, I don't want to say the ultimate cancer role model, but he is pretty up there because he just encourages people to keep fighting through their cancer no matter what wall is, you know, ahead of them.
I have a friend who, well, right now he's in his early 20s, but when he was a teen, he was really into drugs. But then he was able to turn his life around with like the help of God, and now he comes back to our youth group and talks to us and like tries to help us not to make the same mistakes that he did.
I don't know if you remember the story of this young girl, Megan Kanka. A few years ago, she was killed by one of her neighbors, and her parents since then have started they created a whole new law called Megan's Law, and through their suffering, they've done so much for the children of all across the country. And it goes to show how much good can come out of a really horrible situation.
Another example of that is recently my aunt just came down with breast cancer. Fortunately, she recovered, but in her medical facility, there were thousands of other people with different types of cancers, and she was telling us at a dinner table one night, she's like, I kind of feel guilty, maybe that I survived. Maybe I could at least do something to boost their morale. So she had like a little group, groups at a time come, and she kind of said, I may come down with this again, but at least I got through it. You can get through it too. Keep fighting, keep moving on, do whatever you need to. And that's kind of like, she was a wounded healer, and I really do think she gave those people, some kind of hope, even if it was like this little sliver. So.
Yeah, my mom, she had breast cancer. And after she was finally cured of it, one of the ways that she likes to help is she'll donate a lot of money to breast cancer causes, and she does this, this Race for the Cure, and that's one of the ways that she feels she's giving back to help prevent this from spreading even more than it actually does.
A teacher at my school a while ago, he had leukemia, and his wife works at the school, and then when he passed away, they began a charity run I think it's in the spring, and students run, and people who knew Mr. Robo, everyone runs to raise money for leukemia and for a cause he really loved, the track at my high school. And it's just a way to feel better about what happened to him, and it kind of feels as if you're doing his memory justice.
Yeah. Let's go back to our interview with Emily one more time and get some advice from her on how we can help others by sharing your own woundedness.
I would say definitely stay close to God and pray every day. Make sure you're in communion with God and that He's helping you through everything, and that will help you to minister to others if you feel God's love in your own heart and allow Him and others to love you.
Are there any scriptures which you related to when it comes to healing through our brokenness?
I always liked the one, "Come to me, because my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Because when you're feeling like the world is oppressing you, or you're feeling like you can't bear anymore, Jesus is saying, "Come to me and I will help you, and I will take these pains for you and I'll carry you."
I love that scripture. My yoke is easy and my burden is light.
I think you should look up to those people who are wounded healers.
It's that hope you really need to get through it. It's that motivation to know that people have done this, so there's a chance for me.
Just like keep in mind that you're not the only person who's going through it, that someone else has been through it before you.
Being a wounded healer myself, I know has really just helped me go through all the struggles I've had in my life. There's been a few, and I know helping other people and just talking to them has really kind of allowed me to heal in ways that it wouldn't have otherwise.
And
It's a good feeling, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know also being a wounded healer that sometimes really hard things come up in your personal life as well, like self-mutilation, something people can really relate to and really need help. But when you do help someone and, become a wounded healer, you can realize that maybe sometimes helping them would help you heal some old hurts as well.
Yeah, sometimes it can cover up those old wounds, like helping somebody else get through the same thing. You're kind of helping yourself a little bit too, make yourself feel better.
And it gives you the power to make someone else's difficulties a lot easier.
And I definitely say be open to anybody. People will come up to you if they know you've been through a hard time. They'll come up to you and ask you about stuff, if they're going through the same thing. In my circle of friends, there'll always be somebody who had an experience, and as long as you're just listening to them and understanding, that's going to make them feel better.
Yeah, you shouldn't tune them out, you know what I mean? They may not, even if they haven't gone through it, they're trying to help you. You could at least, accept that, and maybe just, the concern that that person shows will even help you to get through it, and it can help them understand in case they ever face an obstacle like that.
The best advice that I can give is just to say to not be afraid to share your experiences. You're not going to sound crazy, and people will really appreciate it if you can open up yourselves and be relatable.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how much it helps
Yeah.
to just tell your experience to somebody who's going through the same thing, and they'll be like, wow.
Yeah.
I completely agree, I understand,
When you give out advice, you not only help them, but you end up helping yourself too, so you might as well.
Yeah.
One of the things that was good advice for me was I remember during a sermon one time at Mass, the priest was talking about how there was a story about this man, and when he died, he went to heaven, and he looked at his life as a beach, and there were two sets of footprints, and when he was talking to God about it, he said, "Well, during the easy parts of my life, you were standing right next to me, but during the hard parts of my life, I was walking alone. Why is that?" And God responds saying that during the easy parts of your life, I was able to stand there and let you work it out yourself, but during the hard parts of your life, I carried you. So it was just always something to tell me that God is always there, always helping you get through it, and He's helping you even more during the harder times of your life.
Yeah, like I have to be a wounded healer. I pray to God for courage to like open myself up to people and allow them to see that I made mistakes, that I had weaknesses and everything. And you know, that can be hard, letting people know that, because it can be hard to like let people know that you made mistakes too. Often the person who has endured great suffering can become a source of wisdom, healing power, and inspiration to others.
In some cases, they can actually move beyond the pain and the hurt they're experiencing themselves to focus on others in an extraordinary way.
For these, while the suffering does not diminish, there's a healing and a wholeness to be found in the very act of helping.
Think about and pray about whether you can help others in this way.
How can your wounds help others to heal?
For more information, resources, and links on this topic,
contact us through our website and look for Ministering Out of Our Brokenness on our current or past shows.
The address is www.realfaithtv.com.
Or you can call us at 609-406-7402.
And here's one final thought to remember.
It's a paradox that the brokenness we think prevents us from ministering to others can be the very instrument God uses to heal and help them.
1 Peter chapter 2, verse 24 reads, "He himself bore our sins in his body on the tree, so that we might die to sins and live for righteousness."
By his wounds you have been healed.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on
Real Faith TV.
God bless.